Hi, I'm Candace Benji-Small, and I am Head of Research at William & Mary Libraries. I took this position in February of 2018. I have been a librarian for 20 years, and throughout my entire career I have been in public services. So Carrie asked me to talk to you all about what it's like to be a reference instruction outreach librarian in an academic library. I think this is very fitting because, as you can see from a study that Triumph did, published in 2015 in College and Research Libraries, majority of positions that are advertised in academic libraries are in public services. In fact, in 2011, which is a little old, so the number's probably even higher now, the percentage was 57.2% of all job positions in academic libraries were for public services. And if we look at what types of public services positions there were, 35% of all job ads were for reference, liaison, or instruction. So I'm going to talk a little bit about each of those components and what it is that I like about each and what I find challenging for each of those. Let's start with reference. So the main purpose when you are doing reference is that you are going to be helping students, faculty, and staff find sources for some kind of project or paper. That may be sitting at a reference desk and waiting for people to walk up to you. It may be having some kind of instant messenger client on your computer and answering questions that way, or possibly by email. It might also be by more in-depth individual consultations. So the best parts about doing reference for me is that each encounter I get to learn about a new topic. And I'm very curious, and I really like to learn about, I might be learning about a nursing topic, and then I might be working with a business professor, and then I turn around and I'm working with an art historian, and I find it fascinating. I always love learning new things. I also really have kind of an inner detective that likes to hunt things down. So I'm the one that people often turn to in my family when they say, I saw a statistic, is this true? I love to go on hunts to find out whether something is true or not. I sometimes say I'm a bit of a fun killer on the internet because I'll say, no, that meme is not actually true. But I find digging that kind of information up to be really interesting, and I think that goes back to me being a reference librarian. The challenging part I find with reference is that if you are staffing a desk, that means that you have to commit a certain amount of your time to sitting at the desk. And if it's slow, that can be a challenging time where you're like, I could be working on this project if I wasn't at the desk. And also sometimes it's hard to find that time. It's a committed time. That means you can't do other things because you're sitting at the desk waiting for people. Also, if you're helping to staff a desk and the library is, especially if you have an on-campus population, residential, you may be staffing the desk at night or on weekends because that's when your clientele is around too. The other part about the reference that can be challenging is that it's very much about people coming to you. So especially if you're doing a desk, you're waiting for people to come into the library to ask questions, or maybe they're doing it through email or IM, but that's just a minor percentage of a campus. And I always think about the people who aren't coming and asking me directly, who aren't proactive or who are shy and aren't quite sure about asking for help. So we're going to move on now to instruction. And the main purpose of instruction is in a group setting. You're going to teach people about the research process and how to critically think about information. Most often in an academic library, you're doing what we call one-shots, which is when a professor asks you to be a guest speaker in their class to talk about research related to an assignment. The best parts to me is first the ability to partner up and collaborate with faculty. I've had a lot of great opportunities to work with faculty to redesign assignments or talk to them about their students' needs, and I find that to just be reinvigorating and really interesting. And in classes itself, I really enjoy when you get to see those light bulb moments for students when something clicks or they think about something in a new way. That is very rewarding. The challenging part is because most of our instruction is what's known as the one-shot, is you only see the students one time. You don't really know what happens after they leave class, whether what you taught them was useful. And sometimes if the professor hasn't set up the class for a successful library session, if the assignment isn't quite right, or they don't have an assignment, or the students aren't quite sure what they're doing, then sometimes they aren't really engaged in the class, and it can be difficult to have 50 minutes or an hour and a half with a group that don't really want to be there. So that can be a challenge. The final part I'm going to talk about is liaison, which I also put together with outreach in my mind. The classic liaison position would be that you have a department or several departments on campus and you are the contact person for that particular clientele. The best part of that is then you get to build strong, lasting relationships. So if I was the history liaison, I would work with the history professors, the history grad students, and the history undergrads, and because I was their librarian, they would get to know me really well. But the challenging part is that sometimes you are assigned to departments that aren't as interested in the library. I had a colleague back at another university who was liaison to forestry, and his faculty and students mostly went out and worked with trees. And there were a few who did research about the trees in one library, but the majority of them were much more hands-on and didn't really need or ask for a lot of interaction with the library. The other problem can sometimes be that faculty do not see librarians necessarily as a partner. They may see that you are there to help them rather than working with them, and so sometimes you have to have difficult conversations about that you're not going to photocopy with them, or you're not going to do something with their students just so that the professor can be at a conference and not have to cancel class. Now, I think that the tide is changing. Fewer professors see librarians as kind of pseudo-secretaries, but it's always an ongoing conversation to make sure that these collaborations are beneficial to both you and the faculty member. So I really believe in a learner-centered library, and I think that research or reference, instruction, outreach are all ways to support and partner with our learners, whether they're faculty, staff, student, or public patrons. And to me, that's the joy of public services. If you have any questions, I hope that you will email me at cbsmall@wm.edu. Thank you.